Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. This is the Catholic Bible Daily Reflections podcast. My name is Caroline. Today is episode 10, our daily reflection number 10. And we are in the book of Genesis, reading or talking about Genesis chapters 20 and 21. We're continuing on in our journey through Genesis. We're still with Abraham and Sarah. And uh, we're continuing on after God has reassured and sealed his covenant with Abraham that he will have descendants as numerous as the stars and the sands of the earth. He will circumcise, Abraham will have to circumcise all the Israelite people himself, and then any male Israelite baby 8 days after their birth. So we've got all that out there. God reassures Abraham. And then we go into chapter 20, and it's almost like it went out the window because Abraham and Sarah are in Gerar, and they're in the land of Abimelech. And they are entering there, and they're about to live in this land. They're in the land of Canaan, Abimelech, and Abraham gets fearful. He's afraid that Abimelech will kill him and take Sarah from him and marry her, take her. And I think this is an example, another example. Obviously, he did this in Egypt as well. We see in other chapters. So it's showing this fear, doubt, unsure of your own self, right? Even though you have a promise from God, it's not always smooth sailing. Abraham has been following God and walking in his path for years and years, and doubts must have creeped in. And it shows, I think, this example, this story, that Abraham is normal like us today, that he grew fearful, and so and remember, sin is in the world now. Original sin is in the world, and the devil is in the world. And so what the devil must have been doing to Abraham as he was working his way toward the promise, right? That he was bringing these fears and doubts in his head. And so Abraham tells Abimelech, Sarah's my sister, not my wife. And Abimelech takes Sarah. He has not slept with her. And God goes to Abimelech in a dream. And Abimelech is warned, do not take this woman because she is a married woman. And Abimelech says to God, would you kill an innocent people? I did not know. Did he not say to me that this is his sister and not his wife? And God says in reply, this is why I've come to you and I haven't killed you right off the bat, right? You do not take this woman. She is a married woman. I have told you in advance. I have warned you. And Abimelech goes to Abraham and says, why did you do this to me? Were we not, wasn't I not good to you? And why didn't you just tell me she was your wife and not your sister? And Abraham, he makes some kind of excuse about it, and he was fearful. He thought that, that he would take her, and it wasn't exactly a lie. In fact, Sarah is related to him. They intermarry, right, into the family, and so he says, she's the daughter of his brother, one of his brothers, I think. So he says, it's not exactly a lie. Abraham tries to cover himself. So we see that Abimelech then says, look, I am a good man, I'm a righteous man, and he lets him live in the land there with his wife Sarah, sends him off. And just shortly thereafter in chapter 21, right? So that happens, and then Sarah becomes pregnant, and she gives birth to Isaac. And Abraham at this point is 100 years old, and Sarah laughs and says, who would have thought that I would give birth in my old age? So finally, this long-awaited promise is fulfilled, and Isaac is born. Once Isaac, and they're still living in the land of Abimelech. So Abimelech has sent them away, into the land, go be at peace. And Sarah gives birth to Isaac. This covenant, this line will continue through Isaac. And so we see that once Isaac is born, Sarah then says to Abraham, send that servant girl, Hagar, and Ishmael away. She saw Ishmael playing with Isaac, and she did not want Ishmael near Isaac at all, because she says to Abraham, Ishmael will not inherit what my son will inherit, right? So it's in one way, it's sending your mistake away, right? Sarah, if you remember in the earlier chapters, talked Abraham into having this child. And now she wants to send them away. Now, the covenant is with Isaac and Abraham. So God says to Abraham, do what Sarah says, send them away. I will bless Ishmael and make of him a great nation, because he will not inherit what I have set aside for Isaac. And so he is sent away with Hagar into the wilderness. And Abimelech and Abraham then make a covenant, because Abimelech can see that Abraham is greatly blessed by God, and he says, let's make a covenant together so that we do no harm to each other and that we live in this land peacefully. And so they do. They make a covenant at the end of the chapter. We see a lot of the consequences of sin, the mistakes of sin, little white lies, little sins, right? And how true is that to what we have today, right? How comparable is that to today? Number one, the sin, the white lies, and then we see the sending away of Hagar and Ishmael. It's sort of a covering up or trying to shoo away a problem, a mistake that they had entered into years earlier, and now sending them away. But you can't blame them either, because, Sarah and Abraham have waited years and years for this promise. They want the descendant. They want this great nation to be through their son Isaac. She has had her son in old age here, and it is now, time to continue on with this promise from God. And Hagar and Ishmael were in the way of that, and so they send them away. But thankfully, God has blessed Ishmael, and Ishmael will later become a great nation himself. There will be 12 tribes under him, 12 sons, 12 tribes. And so, just a very interesting, relatable story in these two chapters. I hope that you enjoy this podcast episode. I hope that you will like and subscribe, comment, send me prayer intentions. I would love to be able to pray for you as I do my own self and my own family. And I hope that you join me in our next episode of this podcast, where we will be on daily reflection number 11, and we're going to continue on through Genesis and look at the comparisons between the times of Genesis to our times today. Have a great rest of your day.